Alright, continuing on, we have the digestive compartments. Um, Intracellular digestion and extracellular digestion. What happens in intracellular digestion? So, this is the kind of digestion that protozoans and sponges in particular have. So, this is a kind of digestion that occurs within the cell. So, naturally, there's smaller food. Um, Ingestion happens through the phagocytic vesicle, and excretion occurs through exocytosis. This is closely related to what was learned in the first quarter. So, exocytosis is a process of the exit of something that's a waste product. It's the opposite of the process of endocytosis. Endocytosis involves um, the bringing in of something. Uh, I feel kind of dumb in this part, but I did make a video on that when I was still pretty knowledgeable about it. Back when I was pretty smart about it. So, yeah. Extracellular digestion, we have this is defined as digestion outside of the cell. Ingestion is through the mouth, and excretion is through an anus. And the nutrients absorbed into the blood, nutrients are basically absorbed into the blood through the gut epithelia. So this involves the digestion of or the intake of bigger food. And yeah, aside from protozoans and sponges, everyone else, or most that are not protozoans and sponges at least, have this kind of digestion system, digestion process or scheme. So, gastrovascular cavity, pouch function in digestion and nutrient distribution to the body. Alimentary canal, this is a digestive tube extending between two openings, the mouth and the anus. We have the tongue. It's responsible for pushing bolus to the oral cavity to the pharynx. I think this is from, I'm not sure. Uh, we have the throat region. This opens in two ways. One is through the esophagus and the other is through the trachea. And yeah, it helps you swallow well. And we have the epiglottis, our favorite. Uh, it's a flap cartilage covering the glottis and the opening between them. And the swallow reflex directs the bolus to the esophagus. So bolus is composed of food and saliva. So that is the reason why we call food that has already been touched by saliva as bolus instead of the word food itself. So yeah, esophagus, it's striated and smooth muscle. Striated, the purpose of being striated is so that this organ could enable the act of swallowing, and the muscle is also smooth at the same time in order to enable the act of peristalsis. So peristalsis, I believe, is a function wherein food just goes through and through until it reaches the rectum as a waste product, and the good stuff from the food is absorbed by the villi and other parts in the small intestine. So we have the stomach. It is intended to store food and start protein digestion. The accordion folds, and other than that, we have the elastic wall. They accommodate a maximum amount of 2 liters of food and liquid. So, yeah, it's capable of producing gastric juice. This, by the way, is again made up of hydrochloric acid and another thing. What is that thing? Let's go back. Wait, where is that? Ah, yes. Aside from hydrochloric acid, pepsin is also an important ingredient. All right. For the stomach, yeah, produce gastric juice, and it's responsible for mixing food by churning. So gastric juice food, they are eventually called chyme or chyme. So after being called bolus, it eventually is called as chyme. That's what I was looking for a while ago. So first it's called food, then it's called bolus, then it's called chyme. It's analogous in the context of how an embryo is labeled. That will be mentioned in the future video, in future videos. That is third quarter biology, basically. And I'll be making a series on this one, too. And it's 82 freaking pages, bro. So, yeah. It's gonna be long, but it's biology. What do you expect? Anyways, chemical digestion in stomach. There are two parts of gastric juice in digestion. We have the hydrochloric acid and the protease called pepsin. So they're produced by cells in the gastric glands. Gastric glands are composed of parietal cells and chief cells. Parietal cells secrete hydrogen and chlorine ions, and chief cells release pepsin into pepsinogen. So the stomach protects from digesting itself by secreting mucus. And from there, the new epithelial layer is produced every 3 days. And it replaces cells eroded by digestive juices. So, yeah, this is the story of how a stomach is able to protect itself from the acidity of the acid it produces. So, they're in the lining, in other words, the epithelial layer. New layers are produced every 3 days. So, yeah, that's the reason why the stomach is still standing even today. So, we have a disease, a digestive system disease, particularly called gastric ulcer. This is because of Helicobacter pylori. I believe this is a bacteria. So yeah, that's everything that I'm gonna say. Small intestine. Let's go back to the small intestine. So further digestion of individual amino acids, most hydrolysis of macromolecules, and it starts digestion of fats and lipids with the help of bile that is responsible for the emulsifying process. For the emulsifying process, if you didn't hear that. The duodenum is the very first part of the small intestine. So, chyme plus pancreatic juice plus bile plus the gastric juice. So that's everything that goes on in the duodenum. And then, the duodenum is where majority of the digestion happens. Sorry. Alright, back to where we are. The duodenum is approximately 25 centimeters long. It's kind of long. The small intestine itself, I believe, is taller than the height of an average human. So, yeah, just to give you a proper perspective. And then, what follows after the duodenum is the jejunum and then the ileum. Both of these, sorry. Both of these parts of the small intestine are responsible for the absorption of nutrients and water. So, let's go to the pancreas. Pancreas is responsible for aiding chemical digestion by producing the alkaline pancreatic juice. So yes, aside from what's produced by the gallbladder, if I remember correctly, gallbladder is responsible for the secretion of bile. Is it? Yes. Okay. Where are we? Okay, here. Actually, wait. Yeah, here. What are the uses of bile? So, I only mentioned one here for some reason. I don't know why. One is it destroys the obsolete or RBC, basically red blood cell that's no longer useful. So, at the same time, it releases bile pigments or waste products of the liver. And nutrient transport across epithelial cells, active or passive. Active if the nutrient transport involves the basically the transport of amino acids, peptides, vitamins, and glucose, then active transport is required. What is active transport again? Basically, it needs ATP in order for it to function. But for passive, it does not require any ATP. Therefore, it is okay for it to happen like naturally. So there's no need for ATP, and fructose is the only kind of nutrient that can be transported without the provision of ATP. And yeah, nutrient-rich blood from the villi will go to the hepatic portal vein and the liver, the heart, and to the rest of the body. So yeah, this is a picture on the fat absorption in the small intestine. We have the microvilli, micelles, fats, triglycerides. Triglycerides, by the way, is basically a fancy term for saying lipids or fats. Maybe lipids. Yeah. Chylomicron. Yeah. Let's skip that. Absorption in the large intestine. So we have the colon, the cecum, and the rectum. But yeah, the colon is a major part in the large intestine. This, by the way, is located at the end of the alimentary canal. So the colon is responsible for recovering 90% of fluid as water by the process of osmosis. And the cecum, on the other hand, is important for fermenting ingested material. So what is feces? This becomes more solid as it is moved by peristalsis. So yeah, that's basically the formal way of saying the brown stuff that you release. Or basically, if you call it droppings with birds, yeah, it's a dropping of humans. Diarrhea. This is one digestive system ailment or disease. Colon lining is irritated by infection. So as a result, less water is reabsorbed, and yeah, feces is usually liquid. So yeah, that's diarrhea. How about constipation? It's somehow the opposite in the sense that the feces is very solid to the point that it's really hard to release waste products, those waste products. So feces moves along the colon too slowly, and as a result, or at the same time, more H2O is reabsorbed. Let's go to the rectum, the second last organ of the digestive system. So this is basically where feces stays until elimination happens. So elimination happens through the anus. Alright, that's it for this video. Next one, endocrine system. Gracias.